And so our first presentation, The Purpose of Life, How to Get Motivation and Fulfillment That Lasts. Welcome, Kris Lenart.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here with you today. And as we have the topic, I think all of us need energy, right? And cheerfulness. It's good to have energy, but it's not only energy, it's also cheerfulness. And I hope I can present the topic well. So it's not my mother language. Usually I speak most of the time German. Of course, if I travel, I need to speak English as well. So I hope that you forgive me. Some of the words are maybe not totally fit to the sentence I want to say. So I want to say thank you for that as well. I'm very happy that you came to the EQ Summit. As I entered the border here in the States, you know, the first time I came to the States, it was when I was 16 years old. Now I am 30 years older. And since then, I came a lot of times, and every time I enter the border, it's a bit of scaring, right? The police guys are very tough guys, and they look in your eyes, and they want to find something, right? And I come there very innocent, you know, but I feel like if I would not be innocent. So it's a funny feeling always at the border. I prepare myself always for my whole flights to meet these guys. And then I was standing this time at the border again because I knew they have a very deep voice usually, and they really stare at you. And then they have their questions. So I was standing at the borders, and then, you know, I was just seeing there were two open ones, and I thought, who is nicer? Do you do the same thing sometimes? So it would be good if I could go to this guy, right? But I went to the other guy I didn't want it to go. I gave him my passport. He didn't look at me. There was no finger screen, no face screen, nothing. Well, he didn't look at me, and he asked me this very important question. Do you know what comes? What are you doing here, right? So I have a problem, right? And I said, I'm going to the EQ Summit, the Emotional Summit. And he repeats his question. That's not a good sign. He says, what are you doing here? I said, I'm going to the Emotional EQ Summit. And that's the first time he looks at me. He said, I thought you're kidding me. I said, no, I'm not kidding you. I never would kid a police guy, you know, in the States. Never, ever. I know so many stories. People have been kidding them, and they really got problems, so I would never do that. And I said, you know, you're the third guy talking about this subject. I said, really? Other people are also traveling to the EQ Summit? And he said, that's a very interesting topic. So we went into the topic. He asked me what am I lecturing, what I am talking, and I was talking about Viktor Frankl and Logotherapy. And it was the first time I was laughing with a police guy at the border in the States. That was amazing. So Happiness Mind works at the border of America. I hope it works also inside. So let's see what will happen. But I had really 10 minutes laughing with him. Probably people said, oh, let's go to the right guy. So as we are going into this subject of logotherapy, it's called logos and therapy. It comes together. It's the word. Logos comes from the word. Greek word, it means words, but also purpose. And I hope this is for most people, as I'm traveling around the world, for most people, they are not so aware of that teaching. You know, everybody knows Sigmund Freud, right? Yes. I'm sorry, I'm not the biggest friend of Sigmund Freud, you know, but I really like Viktor Frankl. He lived at the same time as Sigmund Freud. He was studying psychology as well. He was a medical doctor which wanted to go into psychology, and he was very young at that time, and he could also participate at Alfred Adler. You probably know him, right? Alfred Adler. He's also a psychotherapist in that time, and one day Viktor Frankl was kicked out of the association from Alfred Adler because he was not very obedient. He was one who was thinking and not just following. He liked to use his mind and to see what he can develop. So all of these big psychologists, they are coming from Vienna, from beautiful Austria. I don't know why, you know. It's called the first Austrian Vienna school. There was Sigmund Freud, and there was the second Vienna school. It was from Alfred Adler. And then the guy I want to present it today is Viktor Frankl, the third Vienna school. So I tell you, if you have studied some of the books of Sigmund Freud, which I have because I'm teaching logotherapy, so I have to know what Sigmund Freud is also teaching. But I tell you, whatever Sigmund Freud was teaching, Viktor Frankl is teaching the opposite. You know, and I could say my presentation is over now, you know, because that's it, you know. But to just get a bit of feeling, because usually I'm teaching for 2 years. Today I'm teaching you for 34 minutes. So I can't put 2 years into 34 minutes, but I will try to give my best. But for this, I will speed up a bit. You know, the good thing is, as we're learning from Dr. Nedley, that we have an amazing brain with, in Europe at least, you have a bit more, but in Europe we have 86 billion neurons. I learned yesterday that you have 100. I don't know how you did it, but everything is more in the States, right? But our computer is a bit smaller, but it's also fast, you know. I don't know how fast your brain is, but according to the European scientific, our brain in Europe at least, we have a speed of 120 meters per second. That's, I looked up, it's like 339 feet per second. So that's quite fast, your brain. So if I talk a bit faster, it's no problem for your brain, right? So I have to speed up because I still have 33 minutes. Let's go to the beautiful, amazing logotherapy, which starts always in the presence. That's very powerful. You know that Sigmund Freud is always going to, let's say this is the past. It's always going to the past. If you have somebody specified in counseling and Sigmund Freud, he will always ask you about your childhood. Yes, you know, always. I had one client coming to me. The first thing she said, please don't ask me anything about my childhood. I said, welcome in the logotherapy, you know. It's not necessary for us, at least, maybe for you it's necessary, but for us in the logotherapy, it's not necessary to go into the past. We can work and start in the present. You know, I had the privilege to study and be together with Professor Dr. Elisabeth. She is at the moment 82 years old. She is the most famous student who lives from Viktor Frankl. Sadly, Viktor Frankl died, but he was old. But she still lives, and I had the possibility to be at her home. I was a home study, you know, for 7 years. When I called her, she did not accept students anymore. So I called her and said, can I come and visit you? And she said, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm not accepting students anymore. Then we talked a bit more, and then she said, when are you coming? I said, oh, that's nice, can I come? She said, yes. So I came for 2 hours. I was so happy to spend 120 minutes with her. It was just beautiful and amazing. This woman is so smart and so full of experience. And then at the end of the 120 minutes, she said, when are you coming again? I was so happy, you know. And from this once again and again and again, it was 7 years. So that was my gift and blessing. And that's why I'm traveling around and giving all what I receive to you as much as I can in that minute. So as we are going to the presence, the logotherapy is very beautiful because it starts and ends in the presence. It's very powerful. This Professor Dr. Elisabeth Lucas, she once said, you can go into the past, but it's luxury. You know, if you want to spend a bit more money, a bit more time, you can go to the past. It's no problem. But we always start in the presence. And that's very, very good because I like the presence. It's beautiful. One guy said there's only 2 days you cannot change in the year. It's yesterday and tomorrow. But today, you are able to be here with me, and that's the moment where you can change your life. You can't do it in the past. Elisabeth Lucas says the best psychotherapist in the world cannot change your past. Yes, you can change the attitudes to your past, right? That's very powerful, which has been also taught at that university here. That's very powerful. But the past cannot be changed. Whoever died, died. Whatever happened to you, happened to you. So that's the beauty of the presence, because you are not a victim. In German, we say, you are a Gestalter. You are the creator of your life. You can create, you can design your life. Some people don't believe that. They say, I am a victim. And sometimes it's a nice feeling to be a victim, right? Everybody's taking care of you and looking to you and saying nice words to you. And maybe you even get a hug and you will be stroked. And yeah, it can be dangerous to be a victim. But even though people are taking care so much of you, if you are staying a victim, you cannot move, right? So it's good to come out of that and say, oh, I have some power. Maybe you have not all the power, but you have some power. And you have some responsibility, and you have some freedom, right? And if you use that combination where you are at the moment, then let's do it. As people are coming, whatever the reasons are coming for coachings, let's say they have some marriage problems, and they are talking about the past. I always bring them to the present. Why? Because at that moment, they are losing the marriage. You know, the marriage is in danger. So if I spend them with them 1 year or longer, 1.5 years, in that field of past, maybe after 1.5 years, they're not together anymore. So I want to use that time in the presence to help them. And as we are making changes in that presence, there's still time and still money. We can look into in the past. That's possible. We have beautiful tools for that. So as I'm talking to the presence, I still remember I had a leader. He was a company leader, and he came to me and he said, oh, I would like to get rid of the place where I am working. I said, how many people are under you? He had 300 people under him. So that's nice, not bad. I said, so what is the reason you want to change to go to another company? He said, you know, I have a problem with the junior boss. So what about the senior boss? I said, oh, he's very nice and friendly. I said, you have 300 people under you. How many of the 300 people do not like you? He said, they all like me. I said, what? 300 people and not one doesn't like you? This is almost impossible, you know. There's always one who doesn't like you, doesn't like your nose, your voice, whatever, how you look like. You know, I remember going to, like you have poetry slams, you know, we don't sometimes do speaking slams in Europe. And then I remember I went to a speaking slam, and there was one guy, he was one of the judges, and he gave me very bad, you know, points. All the other ones gave me good points. So I was very curious. I said, what's your problem? What can I change? He said, oh, it's only your face. I don't want to change my face, sorry. But I said, what's the problem with my face? He said, oh, you just remember me to somebody that I like. Oh, man, you know. But sometimes this happens. Yeah, people are judging us just because we are remembering to somebody, right? But let's come back to this company guy. This company guy said, okay, you have 300 people and everybody likes you? He said, yes. So why do you want to change? That's like a paradise working, right? And then he said, you know, but this junior boss, he just reminds me of my past. I said, what? What kind of past? He said, my father. I said, no, not really, right? Let's talk about the company, and then after that, if you still have energy and power, we can talk about your father. But does this not relate to each other? I said, why? You know, let's talk about the company and your situation, and then if you still have time and money, we can talk. We can talk about your father. So we really solve that issue in a very nice way, but people often think that this must be connected. You know, there is no other way. And it's very interesting for me to look at the things, to go very deep inside and to see what's happening without taking the dictation of our thoughts and minds, but just to see where's the freedom, where's the possibilities, where are the responsibilities, what can I do? So as we are in the presence, of course, it's also very good to have an aim. Let's say this would be my aim. Can I take that? Erika, is that okay? Yeah, so let's say this is my aim. It's good to have an aim. it's even important to have an aim, right? Because an aimless life is a living death. Oof. How many people are living a living death, right? And sometimes it's one of the reasons is because they don't have an aim. I remember I was invited many years ago in Switzerland, and it was the biggest private bank we have there. It's called UBS, and they had the topic was big, heavy ambition goals. It was very interesting to be part of that. They have a sailing boat in Spain, a catamaran, so the captain was there, and another guy came, was speaking about big, heavy ambition goals. So it's interesting that companies are always talking about goals, but we as private persons, right? We need goals. So at the end of this speech, at least at the break, I would like to see your aim. This is not a workshop, I know. But I would like to see your aim, and not the 5 years aim. Usually if I talk with leaders and company leaders, they have a 5 years plan. I say, congratulations, very good. But I would like to see your 20 years plan. Yes? No. No. You have plenty of years to live. And so you can, if you plan for 5 years, this might happen to you. We don't want to lose you in 5 years. We want to have a 20 years plan. So as you come and maybe say, oh, Kris, this was what kind of speech ever, I would like to say, can I have your 20 years plan? Okay? You write it down. You can just take a little paper and write down my 20 years plan is. All right? So I will get 220 years plans. Isn't that amazing? If this would be my summit, I would say no dinner without the 20 years plan. So it's so important to have a plan and have a vision, have a goal, right? So when Viktor Frankl, maybe Sigmund Freud was a Jew, Alfred Adler was a Jew, Viktor Frankl was a Jew, they all lived in Vienna. And when, as Viktor Frankl has been in the concentration camp, it's a miracle how he survived, really a miracle. If you read his books, like Man's Search for Meaning, one of the 10 most influential books here in the States, in the Congress of Library. If you read that book, you think, how did he survive? There must be a God who protected him, right? It's just amazing. And he's writing in his book here that he was standing in the concentration camp and I don't want to just even talk about his toes because, his feet and toes, they were just freezing. If you would not have come at that time, probably he would have died. I don't know how long he would survive in that condition. But you came and you helped us to become free so he could go out of the concentration camp. And the first thing what he did is he went on the field, he knelt down and he prayed to his God and said, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I also want to thank you. I want to thank you to the history of the States that you have been involved helping us in Europe. Because you helped us to survive many people, and especially also Viktor Frankl, because he gave such a treasure to the world. So, but why do I'm telling this? He is in the concentration camp, and as he's in the concentration camp, he has a vision. He has an aim. And he is thinking about it. As I'm coming out of this concentration camp, I will be in Vienna and I will teach the new psychology called logotherapy. Can you imagine? He sees himself standing in that audience. In Austria, if you study in the university, they sit like this, right? And he's imagining like this, so I'm standing there and I'm teaching the logotherapy. And exactly this what he was aiming with a condition around him which was very crucial and not really somehow promising. Exactly that thing happened later. He's teaching his new psychology. To our shame in Austria, if I ask Austrian people, do you know logotherapy? They always think about logopedy. Logopedy is something else than logotherapy. So I have to say to my shame, many Austrian people do not know Viktor Frankl. But you know Viktor Frankl more than the people in Austria. That's amazing. If I ask American people, do you know Viktor Frankl? They say, yes, of course. If I ask, do you know where Austria is? They say, yes, where the kangaroos are. No, kangaroos in Austria. My explanation where Austria is always the same thing. I only say, sound of music. That's the key word. Everybody knows where Austria is, So Viktor Frankl, as you're aiming, he had an aim. And it was very important. The Bible says in Proverbs 29, if people do not have a vision, what happens then? Perish, right? So the word here what we have is really perishing. It's a crucial way of dying. So people need a vision. If I ask people in the depression recovery seminar, what is your vision, what is your aim? They always say to be healthy, to be good, to feel good. I said, this is not an aim. This is nice, but I want to have a very precise aim. What is your aim? What are you aiming for? What is that what you want to have? And it should be big, heavy, ambitious. That's good. I like that. It should be even bigger. So if you give me the 20 years plan, I look at that, and if it's reachable tomorrow, that's not a 20 years plan. I want to have to see this little paper. You will see us at the food and the breaks. You will see us. I'm warning you. I will always ask you, can I have the 20 years plan? So he had that. And so it's very, very important, I believe, to have really this dimension of that plan. So, because if you have a vision, if you have an aim, then something happens in your heart and in your mind. As we are at the EQ Summit, Transforming Your Mind, that makes a difference, I tell you. It makes really a difference. I want to show you that a very simple example. I am teaching not only in that one academy, Dr. Nedley mentioned, but I'm teaching also in other academies. And I would say we have 3 different kind of students. I would start with the middle class student, but it's not because of their status, how much they earn, but it's like we have an academy where 60% want to become a coach, and 40% they are just doing it for themselves. And the motivation is not very high, but it's not very low, it's in the middle. So if you go there and you teach, it's not bad, but it could be better. But there is another academy I'm teaching, and they are only doing it for themselves. And if I start the seminar, I think, where did I land here? They are sleepy, there is no motivation, there is no power, they are not listening, the eyes are not open, the heart is not beating. You know what I mean? You can feel, like this audience, I can feel you, that you're here with me, right? There is power here, you are interested, you want to do something, whatever you want to do, that's so important. And then I have a third academy where they have to pay lots of money, and we really select the people. We do not accept everybody, we select them. And the aim is that you want to become one of the best coaches in the world. And so this group of people are hanging on my lips. I always say the same thing, But if you have a different aim in your life, it creates a different tension in you. And you need a certain tension in your life. That's very important. Not too much and not too less. Somebody just talked about flow, but just before I went on stage, maybe that's something I want to say. But Viktor Frankl said, there is a be at the moment, a being where you are at that moment. And at the other side, there is the aim where you want to go, right? And between the being where you are at that moment and the moment where you want to be at one day, there is a tension. He calls it neurodynamic. That's not so important for you at the moment, but he says there must be some tension. I want to give you that example. If I would be at home, probably I would be here with arrow and a bow. They're beautiful arrows. Oh, I love them. And I would do it like this. Can you imagine? And I would aim, this beautiful plant here, right? And then you know what I would do? I would shoot, right? And hopefully, I will not get you, but the plant here, right? So, but if I don't have an aim, where do I shoot? How much tension do I need? If I have a less tension, it's not flying. If I have too much tension, oh, I'm sorry, it hits you. So I don't want to do that, right? Are you sometimes watching soccer? I know you're watching sometimes maybe football or baseball or whatever, right? Some soccer, you know what soccer, yeah? Sometimes. So this is so interesting for me because there's the ball, there's a huge goal, really big, huge, it's huge. The goalkeeper needs to fly, like, poof. And then he's shooting the ball. I maybe could do that, I don't know, like this. And he's shooting like, chong! Why? He has so much tension in his mind and body. He gets millions to shoot that ball. But because he has too much tension, he cannot reach his goal. This is a very good reminder of us. Sometimes we have too much tension in our body and in our mind. It's good to have an aim, but you need to have the right tension, not too less and not too strong. Some people think if I'm hectic and always running and doing, not sleeping, or maybe just less sleeping, right? Then I will reach my aim. No. You need to have this peace in you. Like, that's why I love to train with horses. They are so peaceful. They're calm. If I go there with leaders, I need quite a time that I get them to the same level of calmness like the horses are. I knew one of my friends, he went to Switzerland to do a 3 days training. He's very good. And the trainer didn't let him to go to the horses for 3 days because he was so stressed. He needed to calm down. You know what I mean? So that's very important on your way, transforming your mind. You need tension, but you need also calming down to relax. It's very interesting. Very interesting. So if you think you're always on the rush and you're always behind and the time is running away from you, oh man, maybe you should just think about it, and you need some elements in your life. And I call these elements faith, trust, and hope. You need faith. Some people say, I don't need faith. I say, you need faith. No, I don't need faith. I say, you need faith. Why? Why do I need faith? Because you need faith in yourself. You need faith in others. And you need faith in God. Amen. How do you want to reach that goal if this is really a big, heavy ambition goal? And you don't trust even yourself? How do you want to reach that? If you have no hope, you don't need to have an aim. Because aim and hope is connected together. And if you don't have trust, then you're always on stress. And then you can come to our burnout center. You know what I mean? So this is so important. Just say, okay, I have that aim, I have written it down, and I believe, I have faith, trust, and hope that this will happen. And then you have to watch it. You have to look there. There's a beautiful Proverbs. It says, straight. Your eyes should go straight. What about the depression recovery seminars here? People, as probably they are coming, they're looking down, right? Always down. If we take them to the beaches in beautiful Germany, we have also nice beaches. They're going to the beaches like this. They're looking down. But it's important to lift up your eyes. I know we have a tendency to the negative things. Even if we are not depressed, we have a tendency to look down. But the advice is to straight up your eyes and to look there. Because if you don't look there, how can you go there? How can you shoot there, right? You need to look believe, and trust that you will one day, you will reach your big, heavy ambition goal, right? That's very, very important. So as you are trusting and believing and hoping and looking to the right side, you know, I am not a motorcycle big driver. I have a little one at home. And as I did some training, the trainer said, wherever you look, you will drive. Somebody here driving motorcycles? Yeah, there are some people. Take care of your lives. I tried it. I wanted to look like this and drive like this. It was impossible. So wherever you look, you are driving. I remember when I went to a security car driving day. So we did crazy things with the cars just to see what are you doing in emergency situations. And one of the things was the trainer was sitting next to me, and we were driving with the car, and then the car started to turn around. How do you say that? Spinning. That's a good word. So we were spinning in the car. That's a very strange feeling. That can happen to you if you drive too fast on the motor highway, right? And it's raining. So I said to him, what should I do? You know, it was just turning so fast. And then he said, look the direction you want to go. I not even knew where the direction is I want to go. So he said, let's do it again, Kris. And we did it again. And then so I was driving again, and then we started to spin. I was spinning around, and then I just tried to find where is back and where is forward, which direction I do want to go. And I'll try to look, as we were spinning, into the right direction, and my hands just automatically did what's needed to be done. That's so interesting. So the view, the eyes while you're looking is very amazing. So I want to tell you, if you look to the negative things, you will reach the negative things. If you look to the positive things, you will reach the positive things. You know, we in Austria, we have a lot of snow. So it's sometimes the cars, as there's winter and we have snow on the road, and the car is going out on the curve, right? There's one tree. One. And you know what the people are doing? Always hit the tree. Right? I don't want to hit it. I don't want to hit it. I don't want to hit it. Bam! Yes, that's an aim. I don't want to hit it. So as you focus the thing what you don't want to hit, you will hit it. It's very important. So I want to encourage you to look to your aim. If you don't have an aim, you cannot look to your aim. That's why I want to have your 20 years plan. All right. So, but there is something more than that. We are at the moment only looking for the first dimension. Here, you are in the club, maybe, of unsuccessful. Here, things didn't happen in the past, and you are maybe sad. Here, you will be probably in the club of success. So there are two different clubs. And we are all members of this club and all members of this club. But it's only one dimension. It's only one. If I would have a rope, I would probably put it here, and I'd say, this is one dimension. Many people in the world are just walking on that one rope, you know, like this. I'm so sad. Just before I came to you, I got to know that a big company, very close to us, the company leader committed suicide. That's so sad. I think, man, if I could have talked to him, if he could come to our programs, we could have saved his life probably. He just built an amazing big company. It's just huge. If you stand there as a little Austrian, you think, wow, that's big, you know. But then he saw that his company is going bankrupt. Bankruptcy, that's what you say, right? And he killed himself. He was going on that one dimension rope. It's very dangerous sometimes, you know. So that's why I say there is a second, and if maybe we have a bit time, let's see, in 11 minutes, we can go even to the third dimension. The second dimension, I really, really suggest to you to have it strongly, is a pillar going up at that moment. And on that pillar, it says purpose. Purpose is very important. There are many people like Simon Sinek. He writes about purpose. You have probably read Stephen Covey's book. He loved Viktor Frankl. He's talking about purpose. There's a lot of managers, magazines, they are writing about purpose. So purpose is very important. I don't know how strong your pillar is of purpose. Some pillars are very small, some are more bigger. The interesting thing is, Viktor Frankl talks about 4 different arts of purpose. You want to hear them? I'm sorry, I don't have time. Okay, I teach you. The first one is the purpose of the moment. That's where we are in at that moment. As I see, you're an amazing audience. As I see, you're all here. You know, we decided to be here. You could decide to be on your cell phone, in WhatsApp, in Facebook, in Google, in LinkedIn, whatever you have, right? But then you would not be here. But you decided now to be here with your mind, in the presence. And Viktor Frankl says the beauty of the moment can give a whole life a purpose. Isn't that amazing? The beauty of the moment. So the first in the 4 arts, it's the beauty of the moment. I love that. We'll talk a bit more about that in the workshop, but please do not all come to my workshop. Second one is the art, the purpose of art is your job, your calling. I hope that your job is your calling. Some people have here their job and that's their calling. Some people don't know what their calling is. But the best thing is to have your calling and your job together, right? That would be the best thing. That gives you energy. So if you want to fill out your job with all the abilities you have, then you can come to your fulfillment. The one guy I was talking about that just before some minutes, who had 300 people under him, I asked him this question. I said, in which gear are you? He said, what do you mean? I said, I had the privilege of driving a Porsche. That's how you say, right? I don't know what you are doing with the last letter. We say it Porsche, Why do you sling it down? In English, you would say Porsche, right? But you say Porsche. No, whatever you say. When I had the opportunity to drive a Porsche, it was not mine. I was driving it from one of my clients. He said, "Do you want to drive a Porsche?" I said, "Yes." And so I was driving it, and it was so amazing. At that time, it had 8 gears. No other cars has 8 gears as well. I don't know how many gears Porsche has today. But I was fascinated. At that time, my car only had 5 gears. That Porsche had 8 gears. That was amazing. And I asked this leader of the company, who has 300 people under him, I said, "In which gear are you?" I said, now I understand what you mean. He said, "I'm in the 2nd. Just imagine, is anybody driving a Porsche here? Nobody? Oh, okay. But just imagine you would have a Porsche in your garage and you would only drive number 1 and number 2 gear. Hello, there's another one, and another one, and another one. But sometimes we are doing that. We're doing teaching, we're doing this, but there's not a commitment. There's not love and passion into the work. And so how do you want to come to the second art of purpose if you don't put your heart into your work, whatever your work is? You can find purpose in most of the work, right? That's possible. And so that's the second art of purpose. The third one is life purpose. So just imagine if we have from here to here, we have a rainbow. And that's the purpose of your life. At the beginning, you probably will have difficulties to know what your purpose is. You're fighting with yourself. You have doubts. Oh, this is the wrong. What's happening? Why this, right? But as more you live in your life, you see the providences. You see how the pictures are coming together. You see the different puzzles. And that's so amazing because in logotherapy, we say approximately in the age of 40 to 45, most people come, hopefully, to their purpose. And at that moment, as you understand the purpose of your life, life changes. Here, you're fighting. You're trying to be successful, right? You're trying to come up the hill. But as you find purpose in your life, at that moment, you're gliding, like snowboarding. You're not fighting anymore. You're enjoying, you're harvesting. Isn't it amazing? It's a totally different lifestyle. Here, you are working without trust, faith, and hope. Here, you say, wow, this is so amazing. It's totally different. I hope you experience that between 40 and 45. Some people experience that with 60 or 65 or 70. Well, that's late. As more early you can receive that and experience that, as more powerful and more energy, more cheerfulness you will have in your life. I remember once I had a client. He is the cameraman from a famous movie in Europe. And he said, oh man, why did I not study logotherapy before? I said, congratulations, you are 30 years old. You are on a very good average to get to know your purpose in life. So the fourth art of purpose is God. Viktor Frankl talks about it very openly. He says, if we are in psychology and psychotherapy, we can talk about everything. But if I ask one question about God, they turn red. So he's talking about it very publicly. He's not ashamed. Even he lived in Europe. And in Europe, faith is private. But that's the fourth pillar of purpose, is faith. To experience the power. There's a beautiful example. Viktor Frankl and Elizabeth Lucas are using it there. She says, just imagine there are two birds sitting on a cable. And through the cable, there's electricity going through. They have no idea what they are sitting on. No idea what you could move with that electricity. And the same thing happens to us. We have no idea. Sometimes as we are having the Bible in our hands, how much power and purpose is in that book. Amen. So this is the second dimension. And I have 2 minutes for the third dimension. And I want to take you to that. So there is one dimension, it's the rope. Then we went to the pillar, that's the second dimension, right? It's like if I take this paper, we have one dimension here and we went up to this dimension, right? We have 2 dimensions and now we need a third one. Because here I cannot fill it up. There is no content. But if I take it out and I go into the 3 dimension, it's like a cube. Can you imagine that? Maybe that's the reason why Jesus said, I want to give you full life and overflying life. If you don't have the cube, if you only have the rope, if you only have, that's not bad, the pillar, but it's only 2 dimensions. You need a third dimension to have a cube. In the cube, something can be filled, and in that, you can overflow. Do you want to know the third dimension? That's the sum of happiness. That's the maximum. That's the climax. There is nothing better. Einstein was on that third dimension. Steinmetz was on that dimension. Le Tourneau, have you heard about him? Oh, that was an amazing guy. He lived here in the States. He really helped you a lot. He was in the third dimension. So there are a lot of people who have been in the third dimension. Well, what is that third dimension? Oh, Bach was in the third dimension. Soli Deo Gloria. He was in the third dimension. But what is that third dimension? And it's so interesting because in the third dimension, there is where the mind and the heart meets the inspiration. If you want to really achieve something big in your life, that's nice, first dimension, but do it in the third dimension. We always say, we content of body, soul, and spirit. The spirit needs inspiration. That's nice in English, in spirit. Inspiration, right? And as your mind is inspired to do things, The great guys in this world, they never did it for themselves. They always did it for the other one. The sum of happiness, which can be fulfilled right now, not only in the future, right now, is to make somebody happy. And the sum of bitterness is to neglect that. That's so easy, but that's the good thing. We can be happy and cheerful right at that moment. In the third dimension, make somebody happy. My time is over. No, we have questions answered, right?
We'll have about 3 minutes for questions. If anyone has a question, you can raise your hand and I'll bring the mic out. Any questions?
So you can ask the questions.
Hi, I do have a question. What do you
Dr.
do
Nedley will
if you're
answer the
over
question.
45 years old? But the rainbow thing, like, yeah. What do you do if you're over 45?
That's a good question. If you're over 45, purpose is not running away from you. The good thing is, sometimes we think we need to give life a purpose. But Viktor Frankl always said, it's not that we give purpose to life. There is purpose already for your life. And we need to find it. So if we haven't found it in the early ages, we are still open to find it now. So that makes life very interesting. Viktor Frankl says that until the last breath is done, there's purpose in life. Isn't that interesting? Thank you for this good question.
Any other questions?
So as we are running around for the questions, I would like to ask the technical guys, because my present is coming, so you can scan it and you will get a free ebook. But you need to not just make a picture of it, but to scan it, and then you can put your name in it. And at that moment you send it away, you get my ebook. My technical guy is working on that. So in that second. But now we have a question.
Yes, my question is, what would you say to the many, many people who have a job that they don't love, that they're never really going to love, they don't find a lot of meaning in it, but it makes good money and they really need the job? I guess, yeah, what would you say to somebody like that?
That's a beautiful question. I like that. So the question is, of course, what are your gifts and where is the need? And where gifts and needs are coming together, that would be the amazing beauty, right? But it's not always possible. I know that Viktor Frankl has been asked by somebody and said, I missed it. I should have studied medicine. He said, why? He said, then I have a purposeful job. And Viktor Frankl says, you know what I'm doing in the hospital? I'm running from one bed to another one. I don't have time. It's terrible, he says. But the system is like that. Well, I need to run from room to room. But he says, if I stop being a medical doctor and I pause and I'm a human being, that's where purpose starts. That's interesting, isn't it? Thank you for this question.
We have time for one more question, I think.
10 seconds.
Any one more? Last question?
What would you say to those who are just starting out, who have difficulty in making a decision as to what they want to do, what aim that they will have in the next 20 years?
I would probably start with different things, but one of the things is, what are your values? So you establish the values, and then we will see who you are and what is your self-picture and what is your self-value. But I certainly would start with your values, because the values, we'll talk about that more in the workshop, the values is the highway to purpose. Thank you so much for this amazing audience. It was a pleasure to be with you together. Thanks a lot.